Now we'll go to the sideline. I believe we might have had another clock issue. They'll get it sorted out.
Is it just not starting the clock?
Well, there it goes now. I appreciate the officials here because we don't want to be cheated out of any seconds of how good this game has been.
Yeah.
So now, going back to the first half, it is an 11-0 run for Gonzaga. This started when Eastern had their biggest.
Okay. Okay.
Going old school, we're getting a stopwatch in. Keeping time maybe on the court here as they're trying to see just how long the clock ran without needing to run. And vice versa, ran when it shouldn't have.
Yeah. Well, like you said, Austin, in a game like this, it potentially could come down to those few seconds.
Right.
So they got to get it right.
Our folks at home watching on SWX sure appreciate that as they want to squeeze every drop out of this game. Well, no, don't want to look ahead past this game, but for Eastern Washington, after they face Gonzaga, they will stick around at home. They'll play again on Sunday against Boise State. And then Gonzaga has a huge test as they'll go on the road, No, they will stay at home.
Yep.
And face Stanford. Always a tough matchup, and it's kind of become a yearly series. Gonzaga and Stanford. Lisa Fortier and Tara Vanderveer have a relationship. Yeah, we're getting told that they're going to have to rip the clock out of the wall and restart things here. So we're at a standstill here in Cheney. And there you get another look at the upcoming schedule for the Eagles. Test with Boise State, Walla Walla. Then they go on the road. They're facing Cal. And then you got a Christmas tournament. Wyoming and Presbyterian is who they'll face. Eastern Washington, like we mentioned, off to a 4-1 start. Their only loss to a UC Irvine squad. And looking at Gonzaga's upcoming schedule, like we mentioned, that huge battle with Stanford comes into the week ranked third. Then they'll go on the road, back-to-back games, Cal and Rice. Back home for South Dakota State, a game you can see here on SWX. And then they'll get into Pac-12 play, out-of-conference play as well with those two games against Cal and Arizona. Really tough non-conference schedule for Gonzaga, for Eastern Washington too, but the teams that Gonzaga has faced, Louisville coming off a tough loss to them, but facing Alabama and facing some of the team that they have faced, it's a tough gauntlet.
It really is, and I like it. I think it's good. I think it prepares them for postseason play, even though you're not honing in on postseason play this early in the season, but that's part of what scheduling is can we put together a schedule that will prepare us to go far into postseason play. With a team like Gonzaga, who has seen so many NCAA tournaments, that is kind of how they schedule now and how they think about their preseason play and the teams that they put on that schedule. How will that prepare them deeper into the tournament?
And how valuable for these two programs to have such a good non-conference opponent 20 minutes away. Yep. Teams did not play last season, but they did play the first season that Jody Gleason was in charge back in 2021. Gonzaga won that game. In fact, they're riding a 17-game win streak over Eastern. We could see that in tonight. Who knows just how good of a game this has been. But just, the ability to find good non-conference matchups, a bus right away. Gonzaga's going to be home by, well before midnight tonight, which you can't say that, if you have to go on the road and find non-conference battles halfway across the state or at holiday tournaments.
Yep, absolutely. And it's kind of they have to think, okay, this isn't a gimme game anymore. We got to show up and play, and I know it's hard. They're coming back. Gonzaga's coming back from Texas, the Thanksgiving tournament, playing some tough teams, like you said, and then having to play Eastern, and then knowing in the back of their head they're going to turn around in a few days and play a team like Stanford. And not overlooking a game like this. It's right. Hard to do and keep your team dialed and focused in just one game at a time.
Yeah, I was going to mention that at some point tonight. You think for Gonzaga, a huge matchup with Stanford, a team they always play really tough, a team they nearly knocked off here in Spokane the last time Stanford came here.
Yep.
And just the experience, and these players have played in so many big games and game before games against ranked opponents. Not calling this not a big game at all. It clearly is.
Yeah.
But just the ability to keep that focus and know we can focus on Stanford, Thursday as we get ready for that game. We can't focus on them tonight.
Right. Yeah, because you're up against a team that is very similar to you in this Eastern Eagles team. They're very evenly matched, like we've been talking about all night long, and Eastern has come to play.
Still trying to get the clock situation figured out, folks, if you're just now joining us. It is a 40-35 lead for Gonzaga. They've scored the only points so far of the second half. As we're trying to get things all squared away, make sure the timing is correct. Long stoppage here. What are you telling your players when, it's not like a quick timeout or a quick if they have to mop something off the floor and you really only have one message. Now you're essentially getting a second halftime speech.
Yeah, you're like, hey, we were just here just a little bit ago, right? Well, I'm sure Lisa has probably already laid into him again about, like, bringing the intensity. You got to get after it. And then, dives right into execution and the game plan defensively, offensively, what they want to execute, what they want to see. And then, well, it looks like both teams are just having a little fun in their huddles, too.
Never know. There you get a look at Lisa Fortier, Gonzaga head coach, 10 seasons, if you can believe it's already been that after taking over for Kelly Graves. 5-time West Coast Conference Coach of the Year. She's got these girls to the tournament now, I believe 7 consecutive years that there's been a tournament. So, made the right choice when they hired her.
Oh, yeah, they knew. Lisa was always, even as an assistant on staff, I actually had the privilege of being coached by her and then being able to coach side by side with her too. She was always dialed, as an assistant coach, had her stuff in order, knew exactly what she wanted. Kelly trusted her 100% with the defense. She ran it, so it was no question when he decided to make the jump that Lisa was the best next step.
And as we mentioned, Jody Gleason, who coached Lisa Fortier when they were at Butte College together. Don't know how often you could say that.
I know.
2 coaches on the sideline where one was a player for the other.
Yep.
What really impresses me about these 2 coaching staffs is the consistency. Now, Jody only in her 3rd year here, but she's coached alongside her husband, Skip, for a long time. But here at Eastern, Skip Gleason, Brandon Morrison, and Jordan Loetta have been there for all 3 years. On the Gonzaga side, Jordan Green, Stacey Kleinsmith, and Lisa's husband, Craig Fortier.
Yeah.
They're all in their 10th year. That's the same original staff that Lisa came to Spokane, or I should say took over in Spokane with.
Yeah, and I think that says a lot, right, about you as a coach, your style, your character, that your staff wants to stick around with you. They believe in you. They believe in the vision. They believe in, the direction that the head coach is taking the team. And I think that's just going to be the same boat there with Jody Gleason as well. Obviously 3 years, and I think I can see that continuing with that staff. And pretty cool that both head coaches have husbands as assistant coaches on their staff. We're seeing more and more of that in the women's game, and I love it.
And as we talked about, the connections between these 2 programs don't just stop at, the coaches. We talked about the Loetta family dynasty. That is Jessie, who is here, as we mentioned, sporting the Eastern gear, but had a great career and was a part of one of the best Gonzaga women's basketball teams. There she is with Coach Fortier. Was a great player, then went and played overseas. And, of course, her youngest sister, Jamie, is on the court tonight. And the oldest sister, Jessie was the middle sister, the oldest sister, Jordan, who was a player at the University of Oregon, on the bench. So, and don't think the good genes just came out of nowhere. Their mother was a player at the University of Oregon as well. So it runs in the family. And that's just some of the cool things when you have 2 programs that are close like this. You think of another one between Washington State and Idaho, or wherever you have 2 programs so close together. When you have those kind of connections, it's really fun, because if you have, my sister plays, or my older sister is a coach, and it's halfway across the country, it somehow doesn't feel as connected. But now you have 2 families that are spanning these 2 programs. Yeah,
that is kind of fun to see that that it's not just one single program, but it is spanned out over 3 really good programs too. And I think that's probably, where Jamie gets her competitiveness, right, that we've seen her play with all game long so far. When you come from a long line of sisters who are equally competitive, man, it just runs in your blood.
Well, we are still stopped here at Reese Court, ladies and gentlemen, as they are trying to get the clock figured out. We have a conference over there at the scorer's table. The referees have come over a couple times and let us know what's going on. Obviously, if you were with us at the start of the half, you know that the clock was running when players were at the free throw line and then not starting when the ball was being taken up the floor, so we didn't know what was going on. They have 9:21 showing on the clock right now, and they've had that for a while. I believe at this point they might just be checking to see if that's the appropriate time that has come off the clock. Gonzaga is leaving their huddle. Don't know if they've been told we're almost ready to get going.
It looks like they're close. It looks like maybe they're just confirming it.
Now they just took it down to 9:15. And now they put it back at 9:21. So we're somewhere in the general vicinity of the first minute of this second half.
You know, this can be so hard for these athletes to stop play for this long. You know, their body temperature has kind of come down, and you just, you know, you want to make sure they kind of ease back into play a little bit. But maybe that's just me. They're probably just going to hit the ground running.
Well, now Gonzaga has been motioned back towards Lisa Fortier, so maybe we're not close to this second half starting. As you can see, Brenna Maxwell trying to keep those legs going. All right, we'll take a break and see if we can get some stuff figured out, folks. 40-35 as we try and get the clock situation figured out here at Reese Court.